All right, Mikey, it's 10:10. That means it is time for Mikey and Vinnie take on the world, and we take on the world this Wednesday morning. Hello, Michael Knight down in Pasadena. How are you?
Hey, Vinny, how are you? By the way, you mentioned Pasadena. I just want to say it's Cheeseburger Week in Pasadena. In 1928, the cheeseburger was invented in Pasadena, California, so the story goes.
Yeah.
At a little diner where the cook, who was 16 years old, apparently burned one side of the cheeseburger, and to cover it up, he put cheese on it, and the cheeseburger was born. So the cheeseburger accountability sweepstakes are underway in Pasadena for the best cheeseburger in town, and I hope to sample several of them before the contest is decided.
Are they handing them out for free? Being is that it's cheeseburger week, or do you still have to pay for your cheeseburger?
You still have to pay for your cheeseburger. I can't say what that one cost in 1928. You want to take a guess? Was it a nickel? Was it 7 cents?
Well, let's see. Yeah, I would go with 7 cents. So I think a White Castle was about 5 cents. Um, in 1928. I think that was because they started in 1917. I think White Castle. Well, we forget as popular as the cheeseburger is today. Back in the day, um, meat was not considered. It was not a popular dish.
Because
Um,
it didn't taste all that good.
chopped meat because it was considered to be diseased. There was a lot of people that would die. There was no inspection program or anything like that. It was dirty meat, and it
That's
wasn't
the
until they
that's the
brought
American way, Vinny. That's the American way. We're going to sell you dirty meat, but it's only a nickel.
right, and many people will buy it, taking the rolling the dice and seeing if they'll get sick. But that's why White Castle, when they opened up, had those porcelain buildings inside and out, and the stainless steel counters, and everybody dressed in white
Clean,
because
clean,
they wanted
clean.
to portray a sense of cleanliness, a sense of sterility in the place. That's why I served them on white plates, and had the hamburgers right out there where you could see them being made, as opposed to some Brutus in the back room slapping them on a grill.
Who was the guy at headquarters who put the little holes in the patties? Had to be somebody in charge of that.
Yeah, somebody I forget. I've read the history of White Castle, and one of the hamburger chefs, one of the cooks in one of the stores, I think, came up with the idea of spreading the onions on the grill first, and then putting the holes in the beef because it would cook faster.
Right.
You would cook it, you get the middle of it cooked faster and more even. So I think that was
The
reason behind it.
concept
Somebody
of fast food
working
hadn't
that.
caught on.
What, Mike?
The concept of fast food had not yet caught on. So the idea of doing it quickly was just an invention for purposes of moving along the line. Get your cheeseburger in a hurry.
Yeah,
Well, the
it
White
was.
Castle didn't have cheeseburgers though, did they?
I don't know if they had originally had cheeseburgers. Now, what year did they say?
1928.
28. White Castle was formed in 1921 in Wichita, Kansas.
And the
And
cheeseburger that we say was invented in Pasadena was not called the cheeseburger. They called it the aristocratic burger.
ah, I'm just trying. Let's see. Um, yeah, at the time, Americans were hesitant to eat ground beef after Upton Sinclair's 1906 novel, The Jungle, had publicized the poor sanitation practices of the meatpacking industry. Uh,
Teddy Roosevelt, the president, was reading that book while having breakfast with sausages and eggs, and it put him
yeah,
off his meal.
and I'm just trying to see if there's anything here that talks about cheeseburgers. Um, they used to have the house organ, which I used to love. I used to actually go to White Castle to get the house organ, which was their magazine.
And you enjoyed
Uh,
perusing it. Did they have funnies and an editorial page, and did they
no,
endorse
it
candidates?
was it was a corporate. It was a magazine for employees. So it was all about White Castle. But part of the reason I know a lot about White Castle is because I used to, as a kid, read that magazine all the time. And yeah, I'm just trying to see if there's anything that indicates what their original menu was. It'd be uh, it'd be nice to see. And the castles are a mimic of the Chicago water tower pumping station.
Right there by the Wabash River.
Right, right. Is it the Wabash? It's the Chicago River. I think it might be I'm not sure actually. I thought it was the Chicago River, but I
One
could
that
be
runs
wrong.
by the ones that run by the big Wrigley building. It turns green on St. Patrick's Day.
That's the Chicago River. That's the one that runs right next to the Tribune,
Okay.
right by the Tribune there. I know a little bit about my Chicago history because I have been watching the PBS station in Chicago does a great series on Chicago history. And one of the things that they did is an hour show about how Chicago um, ruined the river and then brought it back up.
They did the same thing in Cleveland. This is a trend in the Midwest.
Yeah, 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 that, well, I mean, all of the industry always located by the river. And when you started having steel and stuff, they dumped everything into the river.
I know Cleveland vowed to clear,
Chicago was dumped into the river or into the lake.
and they vowed to clear it and clean it up and make it beautiful again, but not until it caught on fire.
And it stunk. The river in Chicago, while I don't know if it ever caught on fire, but the river in Chicago was so bad that you couldn't live near it. It stunk so bad from all of the industrial stuff that they were dumping into it that nobody could live there. And the real estate developers um,
We're up in arms.
said, wait a second, we got all of this land here that we can't have people live there or work there. Excuse me. So they started a movement to clean the river up and make it make the shores of the river habitable.
That
And
must
so
have
they
been
built a
something.
seawall. They actually changed the direction of the river. The river flowed into the lake,
So the lake was
and
polluted.
so it was polluting the lake. So they actually changed the direction of the river and sent it flowing the other way, so that all of
Actually,
the stuff that was in the river wouldn't go into the lake.
we just go where we're to
Fascinating
go.
story. It's on, I ran across it on YouTube, and I just, even though I'm not from Chicago, I just always thought it was a
Did anybody come up with the idea of maybe stop putting all the garbage in the river and the
no,
chemicals
they
and the
didn't do
waste?
that in those days.
No,
No, no, no, no.
that seemed like a valid idea.
That would have always been your way to go, but unfortunately, nobody quite got there. Nobody. Uh, okay, the 1921 menu for White Castle shows a cheeseburger at 6 cents.
Excellent.
Included on the menu is is the jukebox cost.
How much does a song on the jukebox cost? Well, what does it take to get up my name on every jukebox in Queens?
One play for a nickel, 4 plays for 10 cents, and 10 plays for a quarter. Now, the earliest I ever remember it being was 3 for a quarter.
You can play Sergeant Barry Sadler till people actually just stopped eating and left the place.
Or they actually sometimes they actually stood at attention. It kind of depends on when and where you played it, you know. So anyway, that so I don't know. Just getting back for a second to the the cheeseburger. If they had it in 1921, I don't know how Pasadena could claim that, but I'm not going to argue with anybody in Pasadena. You say what you want to say. Maybe
But
if it had onions on it, it didn't count.
I'm sure it had to count. Anyway, it's cheeseburger time in Pasadena, regardless of who invented it, when, or where. It looks like White Castle's got the inside track on claiming that ahead of, unless there was somebody at the Carnegie Deli who was making patty melts before we knew what they were.
What is the best cheeseburger in Pasadena?
I think right near the top you'd see a restaurant called Pie and Burger. But I've had their cheeseburgers and they're fine, but they're not the best. They can't possibly be the best. There has to be a better one than that.
Pie and burgers. I mean, I like
it's a long time institution, right by Caltech. A lot of people who can figure their bill and 20% tip in their head eat there.
Pie and burger. That would be an interesting place to go eat. I like that.
Remember once I ordered food to go and I wanted 2 pieces of pie and I ordered, well, I can't remember what the order was. Let's say banana cream and blueberry. And the bill came to $85. I said, what the heck happened here? And they said, you ordered 2 pies. I said, no, I ordered 2 pieces of pie.
I mean, to be honest with you, even with 2 whole pies, that's still a lot of money, isn't it?
2 pies, 2 burgers, 2 fries, 2 drinks, to go.
I guess.
They're not shy. And Pie and Burger is an interesting place because they don't take credit cards.
Got to give them cash, right?
They will take a check, strangely enough.
I ate a place like that. There was a place that is legendary for their breakfast in upstate New York, in Western New York.
They won't take credit cards. They just won't do it.
And it's the same thing. They don't take credit cards. They'll either take cash or they'll take a check. I guess they figure, I forget what they charge to take a credit card these days, but I guess it cuts into their profits enough. But this was a really weird place. It's only open like 3 months out of the year.
And when it's open, does Hunter Biden go there?
He may. I'm thinking he might be familiar with this place. I mean, when it's open, it's hard to get in because their breakfast is so phenomenal.
Is it easy to get out?
I went there. It was like snowing like crazy. I drove up in a Jeep.
And, what did you have?
You needed the Jeep. I had pancakes, eggs, homemade sausages, homemade. The eggs were on. It's a farm, so everything is from the farm.
So those eggs are fresh. They taste.
And the eggs were fresh, and the sausages were good, and the pancakes were phenomenal.
What town are we in upstate?
I can't remember the name of the town offhand. I'd have to look at my. Go back in my Facebook and look for the picture.
It's called that breakfast place. Facebook. That breakfast place, New York.
Yeah, let me quickly see if I can come up with it. But it was certainly somebody had told me about it, and it was one of the best breakfast experiences of my life. and I've had some pretty phenomenal breakfast experiences. I used to remember that one place that was down on Lombard Home Plate.
No.
Yeah, they used to advertise on the city all the time. The woman, it was a guy and a woman. The woman was the granddaughter of the giant. What was the guy that ran the wrong way?
Corrigan.
Corrigan. She was that Corrigan was the flyer, wasn't he?
Wrong way,
Merkel.
Corrigan.
Bonehead Merkel.
Bonehead Merkel.
Bonehead Merkel. She was like his granddaughter. Fred Bonehead Merkel.
You never saw Crazy Legs Hirsch run the wrong way.
Well, I think it was him and Jimmy Pearsall, right?
Jimmy Pearsall ran backwards around the bases.
And then Carl Malden put him in a mental hospital.
Couldn't be helped. Did Hunter Biden ever run backwards around the bases, to your knowledge?
I don't think so. Well, I don't know. You know, the guy was.
You know what Hunter Biden should do?
He's on drugs, man.
If he's surprising people, he should do the Pat McAfee show.
You think so, huh?
do a 5-minute stand up on the Pat McAfee show.
All right. Well, let's explain first. Let's explain what we're talking about with Hunter Biden, which is that this morning Hunter Biden and two of his lawyers, one Hollywood lawyer, you could tell by his jacket, and one regular lawyer,
who actually had a briefcase.
Went up to Capitol Hill and just marched into a meeting that they were having.
Surprised the hell out of the Republicans.
Yeah, it was a great committee meeting of Republicans with Southern accents. And I mean, even if a Republican comes from Minnesota, why do they have a Southern accent?
It's that cracker point of view.
Why do all of a sudden they feel like they have to talk like this? It's anyway. So he walked in with his lawyer, sat down, and said, "Okay, I'm here." Well, he didn't say anything. They just sat there. It was eerily reminiscent of the scene in The Godfather, Godfather 2, where Frankie Five Fingers is going to testify in front of Congress.
Frankie Five Angels.
Frankie Five Angels is going to testify in front of Congress, and they bring the brother in from Sicily. And the brother just sits there. He doesn't have to say anything.
He's here to support his brother in his time before the committee.
In his time of need. It was it had that kind of tinge to it.
And Frankie did his best. I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't remember.
Yeah, the FBI guys said Michael Corleone did this. Michael Corleone did that. And I said, yeah, sure.
That was a great scene.
Oh, man. Frank Gazzo was the actor that played him.
Did a wonderful job. Let's get him now, where we have the muscle.
The thing about him, Michael, is that that was supposed to be Richard Castellano's role.
Oh.
Clemenza. But he wanted too much money to do it, and he wanted his own writer.
Oh, dear.
And, Castellano was a popular actor in that day, in the early 70s, but I don't think he was popular enough to have his own writer.
You don't get your own writer.
So,
Francis is somehow involved in that.
Yeah, Francis and Mario Puzo are doing a great job here.
Yeah. we got a track record. Who you want to write? There's this guy that does sports in New Jersey. I think he'd be perfect.
Yeah, we just did the greatest movie of the 20th century, And we think
You
we
want to
have the second greatest movie of the 20th century ready to go.
and you want to shut it down for rewrites with
So
your
you
man.
show up or you're out. And he didn't show up. He thought, I guess, they just acquiesced to his demands. And they dug up Frank Gazzo, and he took a screen test, and they said, this is the guy.
This is the guy, and they were right.
I see you, Richard Castellano. Would have been nice to have you for the story, but
And they wrote him out. I think Clemenza died, right?
yeah, he had a heart attack. And then Willie Cheech says, that was no heart attack. That was no natural causes.
Somebody put a buffer.
It's the Rosado brothers.
There was a buffer between the Godfather and the minute it worked. Yeah, lots of buffers.
Yeah, a lot of buffers in the family. A lot of buffers. So anyway, that was the story with Frankie Five Angels and Castellano. That why it and to be honest with you, I think he brought something to the role that Castellano didn't bring to the role. I thought he was actually better
I thought he
than
did a great
Castellano. I
job.
mean, everybody remembers the line from Castellano, but I didn't think he acted it overly great. I mean, I didn't think it was an overly over the top performance. But Gazzo really took that. He took that role and he owned it.
Oh yeah.
After Michael Corleone visits his house, you forget about Clemenza.
I'm always glad that the house went to somebody that we knew.
Yeah, my father taught me many lessons here.
Let's get them now, Michael. Well, we still have the power. Let's get them all.
Now, the biggest lesson my father taught me was keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. So anyway, so Hunter Biden sits in the thing, and he looks like Frankie Five Angels' brother, and the Republicans and Nancy Mace starts screaming, "Lock him up now! Lock him up now!
Take him to jail right now."
Yeah, take him to jail right now. And and what are they going to take him to jail for?
He hasn't been charged with anything.
Yeah, they're not going to take him to jail for anything. So she's hawking, and then Moskowitz, who I thought had the best appearance of the day, Moskowitz, the Democrat from New York, starts saying, well, we want to talk about people who don't show up for subpoenas.
Jim Jordan, where are you?
Let's vote to refer these people to the Department of Justice. He pulls out every Republican that didn't show up, that was subpoenaed and didn't show up to the January 6th committee. So he's got a pile. He goes through them one by one. Jordan and this one and that one and this one and that one, and the pile is like this high on his desk. He says, if you vote to charge all of those, I'll vote to charge Hunter Biden. And you could see the guy Comer, who was just a real piece of crap. You could see him getting madder as things went on.
The chairman, yeah.
The chairman, he was getting pissed off. Matter of fact, the only thing I like about him is he seemed to have raided. He seems like he went out and raided Willie's closet, Huey Long's closet.
Nobody dresses in white suits better than Huey.
Well, he's got those black suits, but they have those wide stripes on them. They just look like. Anyway, he's appropriated those suits.
That's his trademark.
So then the best part of the whole thing was Marjorie Taylor Greene started speaking, and as soon as she said one word, Hunter and his two lawyers stood up, didn't say a word, turned, and walked out. Chicha, the door. No, Chicha, la porta. And they went straight out the door.
To the pots.
It was a great piece of it just showed you what a clown show it is. It's all turned into such a clown show, Michael.
In fact, everywhere you look, it's a clown show. There's a front page opinion piece on the LA Times this morning saying Aaron Rodgers has joined Donald Trump as a big mouth who says anything, who'll say damaging things, who'll say anything and face no consequences for it. No accountability whatsoever for anything they say, for anything they do, for anything they utter, for whatever platform it might be on. And so, Pat McAfee, once again, the ball's in your corner. What are you going to do about it? I think you should have Hunter Biden on.
Well, I have to question. I have to ask the question: where's Bob Iger in all of this?
Where's the chairman of ESPN who was getting his picture taken with all the kids at the UW Michigan game?
Yeah, where's the
Where's that chairman?
where is yeah, where is he? I mean, these are two ABC Disney owned companies. At the very least, Iger should have called McAfee up and said, "Hey, you know what? If you don't have proof that this guy is on the list, you shut your mouth."
It's a little late for that.
Because, two things are going to happen here. Number one, Kimmel's going to sue us.
Plus, he's part of our family.
Right to, and then he's going to go to another network.
Yeah.
It'll be the Jimmy Kimmel Show on Fox. And we really don't need that. Our revenues, our ratings are down enough.
And Pat McAfee's not carrying the financial package that ABC and ESPN need to stay afloat.
Actually, I think McAfee is making a nice piece of change.
He's licensed to the show. He's not an employee of. They take his product.
Right. He's an independent contractor who puts that show together, and they pay in the millions.
And Aaron Rodgers is paid to appear.
Right. Aaron Rodgers is paid, according to CNN, he's paid $1 million a year to appear on that show. Now, according to the New York Post,
would he do KJR for Old Boy Alberto sausages?
Yeah. According to the Post, McAfee makes $85 million over 5 years.
He's never going to get to that fifth year.
$17 million per year. And I love the second thing here. It says Stephen A. Smith comments on salary difference between. I can only imagine what that comment must have been.
Pat McAfee and Stephen A. do not hang out together with Michael Jordan in the luxury box.
It doesn't seem like they do. I don't know. So anyway, that's the thing. I mean, how do you let McAfee, unless that property is so valuable to ESPN, that
I'd rather watch Pardon the Interruption.
Say again?
I'd rather watch Pardon the Interruption.
Well, yeah, you would, and I would, but they're not looking to appeal to us, Michael. They don't care if we watch anything anymore. We're at the age where nobody cares.
The comments that Tony Konarzer made before the UW Michigan game was, everybody knows Jim Harbaugh. Everybody knows Michigan. Nobody knows anything about Washington. And I'm going, really? Is that how it feels on the East Coast? And it turns out that's how it felt everywhere.
Well, to be fair, no, not a lot of people. First of all, you don't see their games. Their home games air at 11 o'clock at night. The ones that are on the Pac-10 network or the ones that are on national TV
start at 8 o'clock.
The last game of the night. It's usually that last Fox game.
7:30 Western time.
Right, that's the earliest you see it.
Right.
And by then, you're probably played out of college football. You've watched it since since 10 o'clock in the morning. And I remember, to watch UW and the Cougars, I would have to stay up. You stay up late to watch it, and you fall asleep halfway through the game. So I could see that not many people know about Washington back east. It's not an East Coast bias. It's just an East Coast. We don't see you. Same thing about the Mariners and the Dodgers and all these other teams. They play on the East Coast. Their games are played now. More people know about them because of the different packages you can buy. But the only time you saw the Dodgers on the East Coast when I was growing up is when the Mets or the Yankees traveled out to L.A. to either play the Angels or the A's, and the Mets traveled out to play the Giants, the Padres, and the Dodgers. So you don't know as much about. And on top of it, if you're somebody who consumes now, again, it's different. But in the old days, you didn't get the West Coast scores in the newspaper.
No, the paper went to bed.
Right, the paper went to. Now, if you got a later edition, if you got like the 5-star, but if you got that first edition of the paper or that second early morning edition of the paper,
no scores.
There was no scores there.
Well, maybe it works in reverse, where the Western teams don't know anything about Michigan. For instance, apparently Washington didn't know they had a running game. It came as a bit of a surprise to the Huskies that the Wolverines were going to run the ball.
And ran it up. It ran it up their gut, man.
The thing about it, Vinnie, was so weird. The first two touchdowns, the runner, number 7, was untouched. He ran through a hole the size of Baltimore. It was wide open, untouched, 40 yards, 50 yards, 60 yards, 70-yard plays where the running back was never even given a bump on the shoulder pads as they went by, not even touched. Nobody there, nobody home. Extraordinary.
But I think they certainly late in the game it looked like, not that they gave up. I'm not going to say they gave up, but it looked like they just got worn down. It just looks like Michigan just wore the crap out of them to where Michigan could run at will, and the Huskies weren't used to that. They were used to the comeback. Even when they were down halfway through the fourth quarter, Penix was going to figure out a way to win the game. He was going to come up with that big play, that long toss, that end run for the guy that you didn't expect.
I don't know what was going wrong with him, but he threw everything high and behind his receivers, high and behind.
It was the worst I'd seen him play. It was the absolute. And, Mikey, my theory about college football is always that it's a tough sport to bet on because you don't know what happens to kids, and they're still kids.
Right.
They're young men, and they don't have the experience. They don't have the, now I thought with the games that Penix had played over the year that they were such big games, but don't forget that Michigan plays their home games in a stadium with 100,000 people.
Michigan Stadium.
Every game that they play at home is 100,000 people.
And when they travel, they also see the big crowds.
And they see the big crowds when they travel because the people that can't get into the 100,000 travel to see them somewhere else. So it was a huge stage. Michigan was used to playing on a huge stage. The Huskies, maybe not so much. And I think that probably was a factor. I think, I said halfway through the game that they looked like their butts were puckered.
Yep, they weren't ready and they weren't prepared and they weren't poised.
I think they were prepared, Michael. I'm not going to say they weren't prepared, but I will say that they just looked lost out there. And Michael Penix Jr. really looked lost. I mean, he could, like you said, he couldn't connect. It was
He, tr-
high, it
he
was low, it was short, it was
and
far.
he turned around all his receivers. He threw it behind him every damn time. Every time.
Yeah, and this was a guy that, I mean, you looked at him even in that, in the Texas game. I mean, he just seemed like a cool customer.
Yep.
He just looked like a guy that was, um, and as you watch the game progress, you say to yourself, this is not, who is that chucking the ball out there? Because it's not the guy we've seen all year.
No, not even close.
I know late in the game he was hurt, but he wasn't hurt early in the game. And
And that's where he could have made the difference. That's where he lost a couple touchdown passes.
yeah, I mean he overthrew or underthrew or it was just and you said it on Monday. The difference will be the team that gets the gets the turnover and converts it. And that's exactly what happened when the Huskies turned the ball over. It just seemed like Michigan went down and scored, and that was it.
And one of the most damning pieces of information from the game that I heard was in the fourth quarter, UW was 0 for 13 tries to convert on third down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
0.
They couldn't convert a third down to save their lives.
Extraordinary.
That
alone will get you a loss when you're playing Michigan.
It was just an extraordinary, as extraordinary as their season was, and I won't take anything away from their season. As extraordinary as it was, that's how bad they looked on Monday night.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was for lack of preparation. I think, if anything, it was probably that they just seemed to be overwhelmed by the moment.
And playing out of position, there were so many big holes, gaping holes in the coverage that was extraordinary to see. Unbelievable. They'd never played like that all year.
Yeah, it was just so uncharacteristic of what that team looked like that the only thing that I can think of that would have made them do that, I don't think, I mean, listen, I'll give credit to Michigan. They're obviously a good team. And their defense is obviously, smothered. But how many times did I see Michael Penix this year throw in the middle of coverage to his receivers and connect? I mean, that was the whole charm of what he did, is he was able to thread that needle and put that ball right in the middle of two defenders going like this.
And he had men open. He couldn't hit them all night.
He didn't see men that were open. He couldn't connect with his receivers. He threw balls that were short. It just didn't. He looked like a high school quarterback out there.
Looked like a backup.
Yeah, he just and it's a shame because he seems to be a nice kid. He seems to be a good quarterback.
I hope he has a good time in Chicago.
Yeah, I don't know what's. I mean, he's definitely going to be playing on Sunday. I mean, I'm sure that some team is gonna draft him. And
how about the Jets? They need a quarterback.
Yeah, they need something. They need something, man. I'm just, I'm, you know what? I'm glad that they won the Super Bowl when I was 13. I'm glad they did it because I got to see it and I got to appreciate it not as a sports journalist, not as a grumpy old man, not as somebody who was tuned into the sports world so much that I overanalyzed it. I got to see it as Joe Namath and a bunch of guys who could catch the ball and defend against the big bad Baltimore Colts, who nobody gave a chance to. I saw a Jet team that nobody gave a chance to.
You're never beating those Colts. You're never going to even be in the same room with them.
And I saw, Joe Namath step up and say, "We're going to beat them." Are you kidding me? And it was, to that point in my life, one of the ballsiest things I'd ever seen.
It was ballsy.
And so I'm glad that they won it. That I'm glad that, I'd love to see them win it again. But if they don't, I'll have that memory. I'll have that except that my memory's so long ago, my memory's really fading. So
maybe it didn't happen.
Nah, it happened. I remember the parade, so I know it happened.
I read the Seattle Times today, and they didn't talk so much about the game that they lost, about the 14 games that they won. And that's an interesting editorial point of view, but I thought, boy, nothing has changed in Seattle.
Well, yeah, Mikey. I mean,
you guys lost. Yeah, but we were really good.
Well, when I guess. Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, no, I don't think any. But I don't know that that's unique to Seattle, is it? I mean, if let's not include New York in this conversation for a second. Most places where you would do that will chat up the games that you won. Yeah, you lost this one game, but that's okay. You won 14.
Well, that's so the fact.
You have the one black mark. It's a big black mark. I just hope the people. I remember thinking during the game, boy, I'm sure glad I didn't spend like $20,000 to go down to Houston and get a ticket in a hotel room and see that performance. That had to be disappointing.
That was ugly.
If you paid a ton of money to go see that, you probably would have been upset.
And it was ugly from the start. It's like, let's play the game. Whoa, wait, it's 7-0. How the hell did that happen? Well, let's play the game. Wait, it's 14-0. How did that happen?
Yeah, there was never really a time in that game where you felt like maybe in the first quarter when they scored the touchdown, the Huskies, that is, that you thought that they might mount a comeback. You thought that Penix was getting into his rhythm. But it only lasted a drive.
Yeah, one drive.
Yeah, it was one drive where he had his rhythm. Every other drive, he was out of his rhythm. He got off a couple of nice throws and made some great plays, but they couldn't put enough of a string of great plays. And again, like you said, when you're 0 for eternity on third downs,
you can't play. You can't win. You can't play.
You're not going to win.
And Penix never had a moment to think about his life because he was in danger of losing it. The defense for Michigan made his life a misery from the beginning to the end.
Well, I don't understand. And I guess maybe what you said before, here's where it does come into play. Why did that happen?
How ill prepared were they?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Why couldn't he? Did they go out and party too much? Did they not have their mind on the game? Did they take Michigan for granted? I don't think that Michigan was that much better of a team.
Just that everything they tried worked, strangely enough.
It's just that everything they did. Now, maybe Harbaugh's a better coach. Maybe he saw the weaknesses on UW and was able to alter his team or alter what he did to take away what Penix did best. But Penix wasn't doing what he did best.
Even when he had time to throw, he still couldn't hit anybody.
It just seemed like it seemed like he just lost his ability.
Funny thing about the commentators on ESPN following the game, in the days following the game, it's like Jim Harbaugh's won. He's gone to the top. He evaded his cheating scandal. He came out on top. He beat Washington soundly. He's got to go. It's like he lost the game. Now it's time. His time at Michigan is over. He's got to go. He's got to find another job. Either take a year off and go to the NFL, or go to the Chargers, or go to the Chicago Bears, or go to the Titans, or go to the Carolina Panthers, or take somebody's job who's already got a job. Go to Miami. Go someplace else.
Well, the Jets are going to be, I think, in play. I don't know how long they're going to stick with Salah.
I think they gave him another year already, didn't they? Not that that means anything.
I think if you have the choice of having Jim Harbaugh or Robert Saleh as your coach,
Well, I was
you'll
fond
take
of
Saleh.
Harbaugh when he coached the 49ers. He got to the Super Bowl. He didn't get further. He didn't win. 1 yard
Well,
made the difference. But just Vinny, when you win, the top sports network says it's time for you to go. You won
but
everything. You're number one.
but that's the nature of the game these days, isn't it? I mean, when you really think about the college game, if you win something, the only guy that escapes that is Saban. Every other coach, when they win a national championship or they even get to a national championship game,
Packed their bags in the third quarter.
all of a sudden it's where's he going next year? What other college is going to swoop down and pay him a gazillion dollars, or what other college is going to? And it doesn't happen with Alabama because, as Mike Price said many years ago, that's the dream job in sports. In football, the dream job is either coaching Alabama or coaching Notre Dame. And at Notre Dame, you don't win the national championship. It's very hard to win the national championship. Um,
But fodder, I tried. Yeah, well, as your fodder, I'm telling you, you're out.
yeah, I thought if I came here, God was on my side. Yeah, but
Oh, yeah. He's on
you
your
still gotta
side,
walk the man.
but you
Um,
lost.
yeah, so it's interesting in that. But now, to be fair, Harbaugh has enlisted a. It's not a search firm, but it's a firm to look at his offers that he'll be getting. So, in his mind, he may already be out of there.
Because he had what would have been called a tough year. Imagine the scenario had he lost to Washington after being
Oh,
fined.
they might have ran him out of town.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. There always seems to be controversy where he goes. I mean, he was controversial with the 49ers, wasn't he?
Kaepernick's last season.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Um, I wish him well. God bless him.
Those Harbaugh brothers have quite a thing going.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, the father had a good thing going. I went on a tour several years ago. I went back to Marquette with my then wife because it was their reunion, and we got a tour of the athletic facilities by John Harbaugh, who's the father, and really nice guy. You got a chance to talk to him, about an hour and a half actually. You know, just walking through the athletic facilities, and really really nice guy, very knowledgeable, a legend in the Midwest.
Oh yes.
That name carries weight in the Midwest. So, um, I mean, I don't like the other son. because he coaches the Ravens. But it's not that I don't like him; I just don't like the fact that he coaches the Ravens, and I'm not a big Ravens fan. Anybody who's lives in Pittsburgh
Can't
is not a
stand
Ravens
him.
fan.
I
You don't
can't
find Ravens
stand.
fans,
There are none.
not in Pittsburgh. And
That's not business. That's personal.
well, yeah, and probably in a lot of other places because of Ray Lewis.
Yeah.
I mean, that put a bit of a damper on their whole deal as well. So
Did he have Donald Trump presidential immunity? Is that what Ray Lewis had?
he's looking for it. He'd like to have it. He says that if he's a linebacker and the performance of his duties, that he
On,
shouldn't be.
a linebacker on Fifth Avenue can do anything he wants. He's immune
He could block people all over Fifth Avenue
and not lose a vote.
and not lose a vote. Um,
Donald Trump today in his civil fraud trial said he wanted to come in and make a statement as the closing statements, and the judge said, "You're not coming in and you're not making a statement."
Did the judge say that? I thought the judge said he could do it.
The judge said he couldn't do it.
Well, good. The less we see of that guy, the better.
But imagine the ego thinking that you could just say, "I want to speak to the court before you decide this thing." No, that's not how it works. Plus, I'm the judge. You've said enough already. I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, it just continue. I mean, I don't understand how anybody can vote for this guy. I don't understand how anybody can look at Donald Trump and think that he would be a good choice to be the president of our country.
Well, I saw people from Iowa saying when they say nasty things about Trump, they're saying nasty things about us. When they charge him with crimes, they're charging us with crimes. I'm going, where did this come from? Where
It
did you
comes from
take
them.
where did you take on the idea that what happens to Donald Trump is happening to you? Because that's not the way he lives his life. What's happening to you is of no interest to him.
Yeah, he'll tell you it is. He'll say to you, "Oh, they're trying to do this to me
I'm interested. I'm interested
because
in your life.
they're trying to do it to you." But the reality is, he could give a crap less about any one of you.
True enough.
I saw. Where did I see it on? Was it MSNBC? I forget where I saw it. It was a house in Ohio with it had Trump flags all over it, and it's just done all up in Trump 2024, and the commentator just said, "Gee, I wonder if he'd ever go spend a night in that house." You
Not
kidding
even
me?
not even a cup of coffee.
He'd drive the other way.
Let's stop here and get a Dr. Pepper with these good people. Keep going.
Never happened. Never happened. He loathes the people.
You know what they are? They're suckers, and it's the best definition of the word that I've seen for a long time. You love Donald Trump, you are a sucker.
Yeah, I mean,
P.G. Barnum knew all about you.
if you want to go out and vote for Nikki Haley, you want to vote for Ron DeSantis, although I don't like DeSantis. You want to go out and vote for Chris Christie. Um, you got you got an argument. You like the way they govern, and you think that their style of governance is right, as opposed to kind of the Democratic style of government, the way the Democrats govern. I got no argument with that. I mean, let me take it back. I don't particularly like it, but I got no argument with it. If that's who you elect, then that's my president. Plain and simple. Trump is just so out there, so disrespectful to so many different people.
He doesn't even like the vermin. He doesn't seem to like the vermin.
Well, he makes fun of disabled people. He makes fun of war veterans. He makes fun of anybody he can. Anybody that's not white and with red hair, he makes fun of.
And it
He's
doesn't seem to cost him, strangely
and,
enough.
right, and it does, and these people follow him. That's why it is a cult.
Oh, it's a cult.
That's why it is a cult. He doesn't care. He'll lie straight to your face and expect you to love him for it.
Speaking of looking behind the curtain at the cult, scientists analyzed the water at Lourdes, which is the grotto where people go to be healed by the magic waters.
Yes.
And in the water were thousands and thousands of pieces of nanoplastics from people using their plastic bottles, casting them aside, drinking the super water. And over the years, thousands and thousands of pieces of nanoplastics from the water. So when you go take the cure, what you're really doing is you're getting a dose of plastic, not like the Chicago River, not
Well, it
unlike
seems
it.
like you're getting it from your plain old bottle of water. I drink my bottled water, and I like bottled water.
Glass, baby.
Glass.
Pellegrino.
Glass. Put it in glass. I very rarely drink water out of a plastic container.
Well, as it turns out, now you don't have to drink it. It'll be in the water added specially for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I just I long ago. I'm not. I don't know. I just think that this is, the glass is the best, and I know it's heavier, and I know it's hard to lug around, and all of that kind of stuff. But there's stuff in those plastics that you don't want to.
Here's a question for you, Vinnie, and I know probably we need a lawyer to answer it for us, but why can't NFL teams ask their players to keep their opinions to themselves in exchange for their extraordinary salaries? So that when they say things like Aaron Rodgers keeps saying and won't stop saying, the negative reflection is not taken up by the team, whether they want to be involved or not. The Jets can't help but be involved in Aaron Rodgers' comments about Jimmy Kimmel or anything else, ivermectin.
Well, I think they do have clauses in their contracts that say if they do something too outrageous, that they can forfeit their right to be a quarterback. I'm pretty sure they have some kind of morals clause in there. I don't know that they enforce it. Listen, the reason is because they can play football.
You can say what you want if you can be a quarterback.
If you are the only one who has not gotten away with it is Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick is the only guy. I mean, Colin Kaepernick didn't rape anybody. Colin Kaepernick didn't get caught with drugs. Colin Kaepernick didn't kill anybody while he was drunk driving.
He didn't accuse Jimmy Kimmel of anything.
He didn't accuse Jimmy Kimmel of anything. He didn't do anything stupid. He stood for what he believed in. Now, you can say that's right or wrong, according to how you feel, but he expressed his disenchantment with the system, which is something that everybody should have the right to do. This is not, we're turning this place into Germany, into Nazi Germany.
And it cost Colin Kaepernick his career. It costs Aaron Rodgers nothing.
Right. Not yet. Not yet. But I think it shows you that, I think it shows you a racial disparity at the very least.
Jimmy Kimmel can say, I had a better year than Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't work for you. I do.
Yeah, well, he did. Again, I go back to my original thought on it, Michael, is where is the head of ESPN? Where is the head of ABC? Where are these guys that they both work for the same company? I mean, obviously Kaepernick is an independent, not Kaepernick, listen to me. Rogers is an independent contractor,
as is McAfee.
as is McAfee. Uh, but do you need McAfee so bad that you're afraid to say something to him? You're afraid to tell him to rein in his guest? You're afraid to tell him that his guest stops getting paid unless he apologizes? Because this could put us in a pickle? That Jimmy Kimmel could turn around. And again, I'm not so much Kimmel makes his living making fun of people. So it's not like it's not like he just is the average guy. He's a public figure and people say stuff about public figures.
They can say that he's a pedophile with no
But
proof,
there's a
and
line that gets crossed here. With
plus
saying
we saw the Epstein list, and Jimmy Kimmel's not on it.
Right. It's not going to surprise me if Kimmel sues ABC and sues Pat McAfee and sues Aaron Rodgers. It won't surprise me at all. But as long as he can throw a football, he's going to have a job in the NFL, and it's more than you can say for Colin Kaepernick, who did nothing but stood up for what he believed in. You may not agree with it, you may not like it, but he certainly had a right to do it.
And he didn't lie to the press or anybody else when he did it.
Right. He didn't come out and say, well, I was in a moment of, or this or that. No, he said, this is what I believe. And I sometimes get a little disturbed with all of these people are supposed to be these great Americans, right? They're supposed to be these Americans that stand up for America. Well, what is America?
It's going on the Pat McAfee show and just besmirching the name of someone with a lie. There's America.
Or standing up in front of a crowd in Iowa and telling lies. Or getting your henchmen in Congress to tell lies about people. Is that what we've become as Americans? Is that what we as Americans now consider to be the way we live?
You can just count on about 30% of Americans to be lying sons of bitches. That's something you have to figure into everything you do.
That we believe that stuff? I mean, I like not to believe the polls and things you see out there, but there has to be something to it, hasn't there?
And you put little holes in the Republicans, they cook faster.
Just smother them in onions. I think what we should do before we go, and we could do this today, or we could do it on Friday. As a Jet fan, you do this every year. But as you still have your team in the playoffs.
Looking fragile from time to time.
Right. Your team is still in the playoffs. For me, the only skin I have in the game is a very light skin in the Steelers. I don't have a big stake in the Steelers, but I like them. I like the team. I like the whole vibe. I just like the Steelers. So I was wondering, do we need to pick alternate teams? But you're going to stick with the 49ers. I don't really think the Steelers are going to go that far, to be honest with you.
They got one game left.
Yeah. Although, the Bills is an interesting matchup for them.
Yeah, the Bills sometimes don't show up. I can't figure out why, but it's a
Yeah,
fact.
the
They just
Bills.
don't
Yeah,
show up.
and the Steelers. One thing you can say about them is they show up, and with Mason Rudolph, they seem to be showing up a lot more.
Yeah, it's a surprise.
I don't know what that is, but Friday we'll pick some games, and we'll and we'll I'll get behind the Steelers, I guess, for this playoff. I mean, or the 49ers. I always liked 49ers were my home team for a long time, so I still have a 49ers sweatshirt in my garage somewhere.
I got my 49er jacket, which I haven't worn in a long time.
I actually had a 49er satin jacket that I had.
The golden, which says in white letters on the back.
Yeah, right, with the red bunting,
Yep.
with the red outline. Yeah, I bought that in '79, I think. When people didn't wear jackets and
No,
jerseys and stuff like that. People forget that there was a time when you went to a football game, you wore regular clothes.
because you couldn't get the good stuff.
You had to know where to get the good stuff. I mean, I was lucky as I knew about Jerry Crosby. Jerry Crosby in Madison Square Garden, where you could go and buy professional jerseys. It was where the teams shopped for their jerseys. So you knew about this place, and you could go there. It was in Madison Square Garden in that One Penn Plaza.
Location.
And they had everything there, every jersey of every team.
Oh, there was a Law and Order episode on where the crime had been committed in Baltimore, and the Baltimore cops had come to New York, and Lenny is got to take them out for lunch so that they can pick their brain and figure out what's going on. And the Munch comes up from Baltimore and says, "Let's get lunch." And Lenny says, "Carnegie Deli good enough for you?" And out they go. I just love that scene. The Carnegie Deli. Take me, Lenny. I want a sandwich.
That was a good, that Baltimore, what was it, Life on the Street or whatever that series was.
Right.
It didn't last obviously as long as
Yaphet
Law and Order,
Kotto.
but that was a good series. There was a bunch of really interesting characters in that series. I always thought it was much more grittier than New York.
Right. Poor Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean Baltimore is a grittier city than New York. All right, anything else that we got on the agenda today that we have to?
Well, I said Pat McAfee. I haven't said Mike Johnson yet today, so I'll just say Mike Johnson and curse him for everything he stands for.
Well, according to the hardcore Freedom Caucus, they're disenchanted with him. They may vote him out before the week is up.
Let's go get him out.
They're not going to be happy till they make Marjorie Taylor Greene the Speaker of the House, are they?
Oh God, she ain't right. She's as they say in Texas, she's touched.
Well, this is America these days. They're going to make somebody who can't speak the Speaker of the House.
Good point, Vinnie. Take that to the bank. And on that note, I'll see you for a Freaky Friday.
See you for a Freaky Friday, pal. If the Lord's will and the creek don't rise. Thank you all for listening. And remember, always look at your neighbor and think peace, love, and Manischewitz.
I guess those Huskies were drinking too much Manischewitz in Houston. That must have been it.
Oh, man. NRG, they had none.
What a wine. See you, Ben.
See you, Mikey.